After a 3-year break, the live-action series One Piece is finally back, and Season 2 really just delivers. Because for me personally, it is still absolutely fascinating that back when the very first teaser for Season 1 of One Piece dropped, I was completely against it. I genuinely told myself, wow, this all looks way too artificial. It looked like we were just getting cosplayers trying to play One Piece a little bit. And then I watched Season 1 and I was completely won over from the very beginning. So of course I was insanely hyped for Season 2, which is exactly what we are talking about today. There will be absolutely no spoilers here for Season 2. You should still be able to enjoy the whole thing fresh because the season only came out today and you will probably need a bit of time since, unlike me, you did not just blast through all of it in one go. So, no spoilers, everything that follows is just my opinion. And if you have watched Season 2 and maybe did not like it that much, then feel free to write that in the comments. That was my long introduction, and I would say we jump right in. What we already saw in Season 1 of the live-action series is the fact that they obviously condensed the story a lot. We skip all kinds of filler episodes. Everything gets pushed forward quickly. And that exact speed is something we definitely get again in Season 2. Because we have 8 episodes, and the whole thing really goes bam 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 from one episode to the next. We are in Locktown for one episode, then one episode of Reverse Mountain and the whole Laboon storyline, which we already saw in the trailer. After that, we move on to Whiskey Peak for one episode. Then we spend 2 episodes in Little Garden and actually 3 episodes in Drum Island. And if that sounds like it might be too little, I'm here to tell you it works incredibly well. Because even if it sounds compressed, we also should not forget that every single episode is at least an hour long. That means they still have enough time to bring in the most important elements of each storyline. So as someone who has read the manga and as someone who has watched the anime, you will not really miss much. I can tell you that right now. They really do include all the key pieces of these individual stories in the live action version. And it works incredibly well. And above all, it looks amazing. I do not think we even need to talk much about the costumes anymore. I love how precisely they try to make those costumes look exactly like we know them from the anime and the manga. The sets are packed with so much detail, made with so much love, and you can just feel that they are not just walking into a studio, standing in front of a green screen and calling it a day. No, they are actually building these things. That means the cast and the crew really have a huge amount to work with here. Real props, real objects, real sets, and because of that, everything feels so much more alive. And still, even with all my fan love for this thing, I still have to say it does feel a little extremely artificial at times. You still have these super saturated colors, this classic Netflix filter on top of everything, where not a single speck of dirt seems to exist. And yet, it works, because of course, we are in this completely over-the-top world that One Piece simply is. And I will say this too, I think Season 2 works even better inside this wonderful chaos that is One Piece. That is partly because we now visit different islands, but also because the crew has grown much closer together. I mean, Season 1 was basically about Luffy setting out and gathering the individual people one by one. First Zoro, then Nami, then Sanji, then Usopp. Well, not in that exact order, but you know what I mean. At first, it was all about putting that crew together. But now in Season 2, they are really a team. They act like a team. And they work incredibly well together. And first of all, we really have to mention the fantastic Iñaki Godoy, who gives absolutely everything to the role of Monkey D. Luffy. This over-the-top optimism, which could honestly be annoying sometimes, still fits this character so perfectly. It lands completely. But the entire rest of the cast has also grown even more into these roles, and it is genuinely just fun to watch them. The way they clash with each other, the way they celebrate together, the way they fight together, and Season 2 expands all of that really well. Their group dynamic is wonderful. And all of that unfolds inside these incredible sets where, like I said, you really get everything you could want. You get the big action sequences. You get the emotional moments, like when someone like Laboon appears. I mean, I know Laboon's story, but even here, I had a little tear in my eye. Or much later, when Chopper is introduced. I am telling you now, Episode 7 will break you. Even if you already know Chopper's backstory, because they tell it here with so much beauty, so much love, and so much heart, that during Chopper's story, you just sit there and cry. Straw Hats do not cry, right? But at that moment, you are sitting there crying, and it is beautiful. It is really well told, because they have their heart in the right place. And that also applies to the big villain group introduced in Season 2, namely Baroque Works. Even in terms of costume design and the way they carry themselves, perfect. It is so good and so close to the source material that there is barely anything to complain about. And the great thing is, thanks to genuinely good CGI, they are also able to pull off all of their different powers. David Dastmalchian as Mr. 3 is great casting, and he absolutely thrives in that role. He is clearly having so much fun with it, and even his wax powers do not look cheap. And that is of course always the problem when you adapt an anime, because animation can naturally do so much more with these characters and these powers. So how do you bring that into live action? Well, Season 2 shows exactly how it can be done. The whole The Rogue Works section works. It just works. Whether it is the big battle at Whiskey Peak, where Zoro fights against hundreds of them, you get awesome action sequences that are genuinely fun, because so many different components come into those fights. Or you get something like Little Garden, where we have the different Baroque Works agents, plus the giants and all of that. They are really very close to the source material. They stay very faithful to what the creator first built with the manga. And again, I have to stress this. There really is not much you could miss here. They also do not rewrite much at all, except for the whole Drum Island storyline. Wapol's story gets changed just a little bit, but really only minimally. And honestly, it fits the structure of the series itself even better that way. And sorry, but even with Wapol, good lord, it works. It looks good, and you have fun with these characters, because on the one hand, as an anime or manga fan, you immediately recognize them, and on the other hand, they really do feel like beautifully distinct characters within this world. They are well developed. They get solid backstories with these little flashbacks where Wapol, for example, gets explored a bit more. It is wonderfully done, really. There is nothing to complain about. This series is fun, and in Season 2 it finds itself so much more, because it can now dive even deeper into all the creativity that the source material already provided. They can do much crazier things now, but they can also tell emotional stories now, with Laboon and with Chopper. And the crew itself grows together so well. It is just fun. It is just fun. And I really, really, really hope that we do not have to wait another 3 years for Season 3, which has at least already been announced, and where production has apparently already begun. But what I find funny in connection with One Piece Season 2 is the fact that we ourselves can basically become treasure hunters now. Because Oda launched this absolutely insane marketing campaign and said, since 600 million copies of One Piece have now been sold worldwide, I will just write the ending of my story on a piece of paper. And then he supposedly put that piece of paper into a little treasure chest and sank it somewhere in the ocean. So he has basically become a little like Goldie Roger, saying, find my One Piece and become the king of the pirates. And the funny thing is, people are actually going for it. People are analyzing that video from this campaign down to the tiniest details. There are people calculating where the ship might be based on the position of the sun. They examined the ship model to figure out how far out to sea it could even go. People are even trying to identify the location from the shadow you can see at the bottom of the frame. So I am very strongly assuming that somewhere out there, someone with a lot of money and a lot of patience is already preparing to find this One Piece from Oda, only to then spoil for all of us how One Piece ends. Or maybe inside that chest there is actually just a note saying, "Ha, look in the mirror and you will see the One Piece." I mean, Oda has always said that One Piece will not end like that for him. But here, maybe they could pull that move, because I am sure they expect people to go looking for this thing. Otherwise, they would not build it up this much. But it is funny, and maybe it can shorten the wait for Season 3 a little bit. But I do have to repeat it one more time, Season 2 is incredibly fun. And if you have watched it, write your thoughts in the comments.